And welcome to the February 18th meeting of the Capital Region Transportation Planning Agency. I want to thank everybody for joining in. And do not adjust your set. Where is she? Where is Quincy? Yeah, she's around. I am not Quincy. We do look just alike. But she was our former chair. We want to thank her for serving as our chair. Thank you. Let's give her a round of applause for carrying us. She would drive in from Wakulla and handle the business, and so we certainly do appreciate her. And I want to welcome our vice chair, Commissioner Nick Maddox from the County Commission. Thank you. I look forward to you having my back.
Madam Chair, I forgot I was vice chair. Thank you. I'm honored.
That's why you're in that coveted seat.
There it is right there.
There it is right there. Reading is fundamental, yeah.
It is. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Well, thank you. We have a pretty decent agenda today. So we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We'll start with the roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Here.
Commissioner Richardson.
Here.
Commissioner Matlow. Commissioner Minor.
Here.
Commissioner Maddox. Present. Commissioner O'Keefe.
Present.
Commissioner Messersmith. Here. Commissioner Goldwire.
Here.
And Commissioner Lori Cox.
Here.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Executive Director, are there any agenda modifications?
Yes, ma'am. We'll be adding item 7C. That's a presentation from District 3 FDOT on the work program. This is actually a carryover. We had to cancel their presentation from our retreat last month due to they were dealing with the winter storm that was coming in, so that'll be item 7C. It's just a presentation. There's no need for action.
Okay. All right, and if for some reason I forget, please remind me.
Yes, ma'am.
7C.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. We do need a vote on the agenda.
Okay. All right.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second to accept the agenda modification. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. We will now move on to our public comment on items not appearing on the agenda. Do we have any speakers
No, ma'am. We
this
didn't have
afternoon?
anyone signed up to speak.
Okay. Well, moving right along. We're on item 4, which is a consent agenda.
Move consent, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we accept the consent agenda as printed. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Well, we're now head to our, we won't worry about consent items pulled for discussion since we've already just voted on that. Number 6, item 6 is roll call vote agenda items. So, Mr. Executive Director?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Lex has a brief presentation, I believe, to just cover these CIP modifications or amendments. Excuse me.
Okay, yes, please, if you keep moving to the next slide. Next slide. Going. There we go. So these projects that you're looking at 6A were requests from FDOT. There were 2 roll forward tip amendments. These were projects in the previous year that did not receive authorization. They asked us to add them to the current tip so they could approve these projects to get going. Then there was also some additional funding that was placed on Crawfordville Road and a safety project on Tennessee Street with lighting from Anon Church to Bluntstown Highway was a new project that was added. The executive committee met in December. These were time sensitive and they were approved, and I'm requesting you ratify that resolution. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we can do these in one roll call vote.
Okay, all right. We'll move on to the next item, item 6B.
Sorry, we need to do 7A or 6A as a roll call, and then we can do 6B.
Okay, you want to do them individually? I
Yes,
thought you
ma'am.
said we'll
Well,
roll them
just item 6A, we can do the projects.
off. Okay. Projects is one, okay. All right, roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Move
Commissioner-
acceptance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Move acceptance.
Thank you.
Second.
Keep me straight now, 'cause I'm rolling.
Tuesday.
I'm rolling.
Monday on a Tuesday. We got you.
All right, it's been properly moved in second. We're going to do this one with the roll call vote.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Lori Cox.
Approve, yes.
Commissioner Goldwire,
Yes.
Commissioner Messersmith,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Keefe,
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox, Commissioner Minor,
Aye.
Commissioner Matlow,
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
and Commissioner Williams Cox.
Aye. Thank you. With that, the motion carried unanimously. We'll now move to item 6B.
Thank you very much. Yes, if you would keep moving, next slide, this slide here, this first slide here, we're requesting approval of 4 tip amendments to go into the current tip. These are all regionally significant projects as they are trail projects on the Sun Trail system. One of the projects does have federal funding, so that will also require that it be added to the STIP and approved in the State Transportation Improvement Program for final approval of the funds. These projects were all funded through the $200 million that the legislature passed last year, the Senate Bill 106, actually 2 years ago. So we were very lucky to have all 4 of our applications funded. This project here is US 90 in Gadsden County from Quincy to Chattahoochee. That'll be a feasibility study. Next slide, please. The next project is the Iron Bridge Road project in Gadsden County. This is design. We finished the feasibility study for the Tallahassee to Havana Trail. For the Gadsden County part, we have requested to move right to design. That was funded. Then the next slide, please. This is the other segment of the Tallahassee to Havana Trail on Old Bainbridge Road to the Orchard Pond Greenway Trailhead, and that was funded for a PD&E. Next slide, please. And then finally, sorry about the quality of this picture, the Bloxham Cutoff Road Trail, there was design funds on it last year. That was not enough money for it to be completed, so additional funds have been added, both our urban attributable funds, SU funds, as well as Sun Trails money. Requesting approval of the resolution 2025-026B for approval of these into the tip. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
a quick question. Suzanne, you mentioned one of the projects had some federal funding. Which one was that? I don't know if we
It is the Bloxham Cutoff Trail.
got it.
So our urban attributable SU fund, some of our SU funding is on that project.
Great. Thanks. I'll move acceptance. Madam Chair.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we accept the recommended action to adopt resolution number 2025-02-6B, amending the CRTPA fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2029 tip. All in favor? This is a roll call.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Ma'am, nope, that's it.
Okay.
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Yes. Commissioner Lori Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldwire,
Aye.
Commissioner Messersmith,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Keefe,
Aye.
Commissioner Maddox, Commissioner Minor,
Aye.
Commissioner Matlow,
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
and Commissioner Williams Cox.
Aye. Another unanimous vote. Thank you. Moving on to item 7.
Yes, ma'am. Item 7A is our annual safety targets that we're required to adopt, and I'm going to turn this one over to Mr. Burke to give you a presentation on 2025 safety.
Super. Good afternoon, members. 'Tis the season for our annual adoption of safety targets. What this is actually a requirement of the Federal Highway Administration for agencies like the CRTPA, the MPOs, to actually adopt safety performance measures for 5 safety targets. And what you see there are the actual performance measures: number of fatalities, number of serious injuries, their respective rates, as well as the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. What staff has done is gone forward and actually developed for 2025 the safety targets, and you see those to the right on the table over there. Those actually reflect a 5% reduction from last year's adopted safety targets, and that is consistent with board direction from 2022. So what we are doing is actually working our way down to trying to actually reduce serious injuries and fatalities in the CRTPA region. Additionally, consistent with the last 2 years, staff is requesting that you also approve a long-term safety goal of zero safety-related serious injuries and fatalities for the CRTPA region by year 2040. Now, moving from actually targets and the development of those targets to long-term safety trends, what you see there is for the CRTPA region over a number of years, from 2007 to last year, 2024, information for serious injuries and fatalities throughout the region. What you can see is consistently serious injuries within the CRTPA region have been going down, and actually it appears that for 2024, those are the lowest that we have seen since we've been taking measures on that. For 185 serious injuries were reported. With regards to fatalities, which is in yellow there, you can see those kind of remain a little bit static, so those aren't going down as much. Looking at serious injuries in terms of pedestrians and bicycles, as some of you may recall, last year and the preceding year before that, the CRTPA has had a number of pedestrian serious injuries as well as bicycle serious injuries. Last year, most recent data for 2024 shows that pedestrian serious injuries were 25, which were 2 higher than the preceding year. Bicycle serious injuries were 6, which was a little bit higher from the preceding year at 4. Looking at fatalities for pedestrians and bicyclists, those actually slightly went down last year for pedestrians and bicyclists. There were 15 pedestrian fatalities, as well as 3 bicycle fatalities in the CRTPA region. Now, drilling down a little bit, looking a little bit more deeply for 2024 with regards to pedestrian fatalities, what we have found out with regards to reviewing some of the crash reports are that 13 of those actually occurred within Leon County. 1 was in Gadsden and 1 was in Wakulla. Additionally, 3 of those crashes were hit and runs. 3 fatalities were identified as unhoused individuals, which kind of reflects the nature of people that are along the streets and their vulnerability to traffic and to cars. 3 fatalities actually occurred within work zones. What that means is they were struck on the road in a designated work area with signage out there, or along the shoulder of a road, which actually had signage on that as well for a work zone. 1 fatality actually was a worker who was run over by his own work vehicle, by another worker in there. Now, report card. So besides the trends of what we're seeing, I'm going to look a little bit at the actual targets and how we are doing with regards to our annual adoption of targets. So most recent FDOT data, which is from 2023, which is actually calculated on a 5-year rolling average, which means this data reflects 2019 to 2023, we see that we did not meet any of our safety targets for 2023, unfortunately. Now, in addition to us annually adopting our safety targets, this look at some of this information provides the opportunity to not just look at the raw numbers, but to kind of take it a step further and look at what is the region doing with regards to addressing the issue of safety. And this does not only include the CRTPA, but our partner agencies, local governments, as well as some of the state agencies. These include efforts associated with plans, projects, grants, and right now I'm going to go into a highlight of some of these efforts. Some of you will recall that in 2023, the CRTPA adopted its SS4A action plan, Safe Streets and Roadways for All. And that plan did not just sit on the shelf. And actually taking a step back, one of the purposes of the plan was to actually identify the HIN, High Injury Network, for roadways within the 4-county CRTPA region. And subsequent to the adoption of that plan, there have been actually 4 SS4A grant applications submitted for North Monroe, West Tennessee Street, as well as Jake Gaither. And let me back up, that was actually 3, I apologize. The City of Tallahassee's Jake Gaither grant was actually successful and received funding of almost $10 million. Unfortunately, the CRTPA's grants for West Tennessee as well as North Monroe were not successful. So assuming that program goes forward, we are looking to actually go forward with that. Additionally, we are in the process of updating that SS4A plan to dig a little bit deeper on some of the roadways that are on the high injury network to get some more information on that, to actually set up some of the local agencies to move forward with federal grants for those facilities. Now, key sidewalk projects within the region. A lot of this is consistent with information you're aware of and that we actually provided last year. But some of the major roads in the CRTPA region, North Monroe, Paul Russell Road, St. Augustine, have received funding for sidewalk projects, and they are going forward with that. Most recently, the City of Tallahassee last year actually applied through the CRTPA managed program, which is Transportation Alternative Program, federal funds for Waverly Road. And that project actually received funding to construct a sidewalk from Thomasville Road to Meridian. So that's a very good project on there. Additionally, there's been some safety initiatives on some of these roads, including Pensacola Street, Tennessee Street. Those include lighting enhancements along those corridors, as well as with regards to Pensacola Street, there's actually some mid-block crossings that are proposed to be implemented along that corridor, which is actually one that has unfortunately been the site of many pedestrian fatalities in the recent years. Safe routes to schools. The City of Tallahassee, as well as other agencies within the CRTPA region, have been successful in applying for grants to increase the safety for school children actually accessing schools. Sable Palm, as well as Fairview Middle School, have received funding for sidewalks to assist with students walking to school in that vicinity. The CRTPA school safety study, you may recall at the January retreat, you received an update on that. This project is almost finished. It's going to be brought back to you tentatively at your April meeting, but what that did is we drilled down to 12 schools within the CRTPA region. And we identified some potential improvements to, again, enhance safety for cyclists walking to, as well as students walking to school. And again, that's going to be coming back to you. Good project. CRTPA region events. CRTPA goes out, conducts helmet fittings where we don't even actually help people put helmets on them, but we provide people with free helmets. So anyone that shows up to these events that are well publicized, we give them helmets. Additionally, we just go out to normal everyday regional festivals, talk about the CRTPA, what we do, how they can get involved. Some of those conversations include discussions of our projects, specifically with regards to the importance of safety and how we're addressing that. HVE, high visibility enforcement efforts. Leon County, unfortunately, is one of the top 25 counties for serious injuries and fatalities within the state. As a result, Tallahassee Police Department, as well as the Leon County Sheriff's Office, are going out and conducting some efforts along corridors that are high injury corridors to actually assist in providing information to folks along the corridor to improve safety and give them some detailed brochures and things like that. That's actually an FDOT grant program coming out of the University of North Florida, and the last few years have been consistent with regards to those agencies applying for those funds. And then, as you most recently heard from Ms. Lex talking about the most recent tip improvement, we're working to expand the regional trail system. CRTPA has been very successful in receiving grants, most recently that we applied for about 1.5 years ago, Sun Trails grants, for those projects that you just heard about, both in Leon County, Gadsden County, as well as Wakulla County there. CRTPA's Focus on Safety page. If you go to our homepage and you scroll down a little bit, you can see that you can actually link this page, and what it is kind of like a one-stop shop page that provides details on what we're doing to address safety, details on how you can get involved, details on the specific projects that we're going on. And that's been around since 2023, and we do update consistently. Urban SDK, you also received at your January retreat a little bit of information on Urban SDK platform, which the CRTPA contracts with. Most recently, we're doing a dashboard that we're about to put on the CRTPA page that actually provides some detailed information for some key roadway corridors within the CRTPA region. And that's something that also provides safety information, as well as information about commute times and things such as that. Now, getting back to the reason why we're here today specifically, we're actually looking to get your all approval to approve the staff recommended safety targets for those 5 safety performance measures, as well as your agreement to adopt and continue adopting a long-term safety goal of 0 fatalities and serious injuries in the TPA region. And I'm available for any questions.
Just wanted to touch on something. Greg mentioned the high visibility enforcement that TPD and the Sheriff's Office have been doing. And one of the signs we were hoping that shows that this is an effective program, and Greg mentioned before the area out on West Tennessee from like Enon Church Road back into, let's say, the Walmart. That's one of our significant areas of pedestrian fatalities. Last year, for the first time in at least the last 6 or 8 years, we did not have a fatality in that segment of West Tennessee Street, which I think is a good thing. And we are hoping we can tie that back to that enhanced enforcement that's being done out there. But that's something we'll be keeping an eye on.
All right. Any other questions or discussions?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the presentation, Greg. I thought it was really helpful. You had mentioned that under the Safe Streets for All program, we are intending to reapply for 2 different grants in 2025. One is the West Tennessee project, and then North Monroe, right?
Correct.
Discussions that our executive director and I have had over the last several months have been, with the new administration, we don't know what the future of SS4A will be. It's codified in law, so the law would have to be changed in order for that program to be eliminated. And the allocation, I think, is set for the next 2 fiscal years, I think, federally.
Correct.
That could be changed as well, but something, Congress would have to make those changes in order for those changes to come into effect, is my understanding.
That's ours as well. We've been watching on the SS4A information page from Federal Highway. They have been listing for the last several months that they anticipate the notice of funding opportunity to go out in late March. Okay. Now, whether or not that's the case or not, that information has not changed. Again, we're still, like everybody else, kind of waiting to see what's going to happen.
And then last question, and so let's say Congress does nothing to change SS4A on the books, they do nothing to change the funding for the next 2 fiscal years, but the US DOT could still change the selection criteria for the grant itself.
Yes.
And so that's something that we're going to be keeping a keen eye on as that new evaluation criteria is published, because we'll need to tweak our applications to basically accommodate those new changes in the parameters, right?
Yes, sir.
So, do we know any idea when those are going to be coming forth?
No, again, the only thing we have right now says late March. And
Okay.
again, that remains to be seen. And I think we shared this before on both those applications for North Monroe and West Tennessee Street. We did the follow-up with Federal Highway and did find out that both their applications were well received and were recommended for funding. They just did not make the final cut, and both our reviewers encouraged us to resubmit them this year, and that is our intent.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I think there are 2 things that you forgot. Executive orders could also cause a ripple, and we just have to, like you say, we don't know, so we just have to operate around whatever happens.
I can assure you I have not forgotten about executive orders, but we'll see what the future holds.
And then the second thing is Elon Musk.
Haven't forgot about him either.
I know. So those are factors that we don't know what happens there. But but like you say, we'll do the best we can. We'll just monitor the situation and we'll roll with it. Any other comments or questions, Commissioner O'Keefe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a quick question. In January, we got an item talking about a very important update project in the high injury network for a few particular areas where you're actually going to be updating a plan, and that was targeted for being done in May. Is that still on track for that timeline?
Yes, sir, that's what we're still working towards that. Yeah, that was the 10 high injury network corridors that we picked out of the SS4A plan. I'm throwing around too many acronyms here. But yes, sir, we are still targeting that to May. Again, to the same thing. If the SS4A does continue, that would give the locals a chance to apply for that money using that data that we generate out of this study update. Or I shouldn't say study update, more in-depth study of those 10 corridors.
Thank you.
Commissioner Matlow?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start by saying I'm glad that we have the zero long-term fatality long-term goal. My questions on this, I know historically we've always spoken about a lot of these being one-offs in areas, we can't predict or those sorts of things. I saw today that there was a little bit of groupings between the unhoused population and the work zones. And I was wondering, is that a target? And then as an expanded question, with an aggressive 15-year goal based on what we saw the last 10 years of it staying steady, what material things can we expect to try to push for in the next 15 years to actually achieve that goal?
I think that's a good question. In regards to the unhoused population, we see, and we've talked about this before, 3 of the corridors that we identified, North Monroe, West Tennessee, and the Parkway at Capitol Circle, those are all near known larger homeless encampments. So that's definitely, that's our target area. Going back to the work that Commissioner O'Keefe referenced, we've already done the work needed for North Monroe. We'll be doing that work for West Tennessee and Capitol Circle and the Parkway as part of the effort we're undergoing now. I think part of it you kind of have to wait and see. Pensacola Street is another area where we've had a lot of issues, and we talked about this at the retreat. DOT has some improvements going in as part of the resurfacing project that should go out to bid, I believe, this month. Justin, you happen to know, or Bryant, what the schedule? I believe it's supposed to go out to bid this month. So that being said, the construction on that should start in the next few months. So that's, I think, first of all, we have to see what some of these improvements that are being done and how they have an impact on that. But we do still have that fundamental problem as it relates to fatalities by and large, is they're scattered. Even the ones when I mentioned on Tennessee and North Monroe, they're not concentrated in a single small area. They're still kind of throughout that corridor.
And a follow-up on that, are they generally people not using the crossing paths and those sorts of things, or are they?
In a lot of those cases, yes, sir, they're walking alongside the road. I'm sure, if any of us have driven those corridors, you'll see folks walking, a couple of times I've seen them walking down the middle of the road. You get a lot of them that are alcohol related and things like that, but that's one of the things. For instance, if you recall from the North Monroe implementation plan, we had designated 2 signalized crosswalks kind of north of Shearer Road up to Lakeshore. And then part of that would be actually doing a fence down the median to kind of make sure that folks don't just cross wherever they want to. They have to get to a safe place to park, or to cross, excuse me. We actually, Greg and I had a meeting this morning with DOT staff to talk about that very project. So we're putting together a scope of more detailed work, but we're waiting to find out if the SS4A is going to move forward before we initiate that work.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And to follow up on, piggyback on what Commissioner Matlow was asking, is it still our goal to reduce the number of cars on the roadway? That if that may be a factor in it, but by the same token, we're testing autonomous cars. So it's like adding to, maybe taking away from. I just don't know.
The autonomous car thing, I'm a little skeptical. I'll be honest with you. We are still several years away from that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And again, I'm not a prognosticator. I'm not sure. You get into practical things with this as far as fleet penetration, things like that. I think we're still several years away.
All right. I thought I saw something piloted recently, though.
There have been a
somebody's-
few, actually Lake Nona, I was down there last year, and they have done a project there. It's been kind of interesting. If I recall correctly, they've kind of abandoned it because most folks that used it complained that it was too slow. It moved at about 10 miles an hour. So like I said, I think it's definitely, coming in the future, just when that future gets here at a large enough scale where it makes a big difference,
Yeah.
I think is the question.
Maybe I'm referring to the self-parking cars that you see in the commercials where
Oh, okay.
they're doing this and they're parking the car without you doing anything. Okay, all
Madam
right.
Chair,
Commissioner
Any other question? Commissioner Richardson?
Yeah, just to follow up on the,
Pull your mic closer so they can hear you out there.
just to follow up, Greg, on the projects for West Pensacola. I know Steve Leone has approached us a number of times about some of the issues that, not necessarily accidents, but the unhoused population out that way that tends to congregate and cross at unsupervised crossings. Do we have any specific projects for that West Pensacola Street corridor?
Yes, sir, I know. As part of the resurfacing, there are two marked pedestrian crosses, I believe, if I remember correctly, they're either side of Dupree Street. I don't remember if they're signalized or not, but they're two distinct pedestrian crossings that are going in as part of that resurfacing program. And I think the department's approach is, we'll put that in, see how that does. If we need to come back and make modifications, they would look to do that. But that is definitely,
Yeah.
We went out and did what's called a roadway safety audit with our staff. TPD, the sheriff's office, host their homeless outreach street team, which those guys have been really helpful with us on a lot of these projects going out. When we did North Monroe, Commissioner Minor was actually with us, and those guys, they provide a lot of valuable insight as to what folks are doing, in that unhoused population along these corridors.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you,
other
Madam
questions?
Chair.
We'll entertain a motion for,
So moved, Madam Chair, to
Recommendation.
adopt staff recommendation option number 1.
Second.
it's been properly moved and seconded that we accept staff recommendation of option 1. All in favor? This one, we don't have to do roll call on,
No, ma'am.
correct? Okay. All in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7B.
Madam Chair, this is a update on the I-10 safety discussion. Commissioner O'Keefe, I believe, back at our September meeting, asked for us to take a look at this.
And we delayed it from last meeting to this.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, okay.
And that. I'm going to tell you up front, Jack did all the analysis on this, and he's not here today, so
We're going to have to
go
make sure
easy.
you and Jack get in the same room at the same
Calendar
time.
together, yeah.
there's, as we've learned over the last few years, you can get into this crash data and just drive yourself nuts looking at all the different aspects of it. But this is kind of just a high-level overview of what we found. Jump into it. It looked at the years 21 to 23. We had a total of 69 serious injury and fatal crashes that resulted in 28 fatalities and 75 serious injuries. As of December 17th, and this stands by itself, there were 6 fatal crashes and 12 serious injury crashes. And the reason it says December 17th, our crash data runs 60 days behind due to a federal statute designed to protect the identity of the folks that are involved. So we generally don't see this until at least 2 months afterwards. Just a quick overview again, single vehicle crashes. Did that 2 or 3 times when I was doing my rehearsal too. Single vehicle crashes make up the largest number of them, about 65% are single vehicle crashes. They account for 15 of the 24 fatal crashes and about 30 of the serious injury crashes. One of the things you always deal with on the interstate are commercial truck crashes. There were 6 of those that were the trucks by themselves that resulted in 3 fatalities and 3 serious injuries. Looking a little bit at the commercial vehicles, there were 16 crashes, 8 were involved in fatal crashes, and that may be the vehicle as well as other vehicles in it, and the fatalities could have been in some of the other vehicles. But about 23% of those crashes are commercial vehicles. Generally, the crashes are on clear days, a little bit more so in the rain than a few. The Cloudy kind of covers rainy and cloudy. It just kind of depends on when the officer, what the conditions are at the time of the crash. But you may get something that's after a shower that may show up as cloudy, but was still, the surface of the roadway still could have been wet. Most of the crashes, 74% occurring during the day. So that's always one of the disturbing pieces of this, is the bulk of the crashes occur in daylight, in clear conditions. So that really goes back to some of
I
the
wasn't expecting it.
influencing factors, and you can have multiple, as you saw in the memo write-up that Jack did, you can have multiple factors on a crash, but about 17% of them are related to distracted driving. We have about 16 that are aggressive driving, and then alcohol and drugs are kind of oddly evenly distributed over 10% of each. A lot of the crashes are occurring on wet conditions. You'll see different types of descriptions in the narratives of the crash reports: hydroplaning, losing control, things like that. We had actually one tire blowout on a commercial vehicle crash. So it's kind of, just depending on what you look at, just a lot of different factors that go into these crashes. The biggest single thing that we see, of course, especially in the fatal crashes, are a vehicle going off the road and striking a tree. That's just over half of the fatal crashes that we see. This is actually just, this is the part of the narrative that you'll see in the crash report. This particular vehicle basically ran off the road and struck a tree. Looking at it again, as we did for 2024, half of the fatal crashes for 2024 were the direct result of a vehicle leaving the roadway and striking a tree. Real quick on the seatbelt usage, you get some interesting things here. This first list here is actually of the crash, or the car that initiated the crash. You see about 84% usage overall. It's kind of telling when you look at the fatals, about 73% of those were wearing a seatbelt, so a little over 25%, of course, were not. The biggest thing that speaks to seatbelts is you see on that last line where there were no injuries, you had 16 occupants, and all 16 of them were wearing a seatbelt. That just kind of reinforces the message on, wearing your seatbelt. The other vehicles that were involved, oddly, you see a little bit higher usage here, 92%. But again, we just did this to kind of give you an idea of what we're seeing on the seatbelt usage. And looking at improvements that are along there, we've got 3 resurfacing projects that cover about 25% of the lane miles of I-10 in our 3 counties, since I-10 doesn't go into McCulloch County. But about a quarter of that is actually covered in resurfacing projects that are coming up over the next couple of years. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Commissioner O'Keefe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for your flexibility in kicking it to this meeting. This is very, very helpful. I appreciate you doing it, because this is a great example of why we get the data and we don't go based off anecdotal observations, because I would not have expected split like this. I would have expected mostly rainy conditions. I would have expected more from aggressive driving. I would have expected those things. And so this data is very, very helpful. I did note that when we looked at the causes, and there was 17% aggressive driving, 17% distracted, and then drugs and alcohol were each separated 10 and 10. But really the impact of those is one and the same. And so if you put those together, that actually becomes the highest. It was 20% if you just say drugs and alcohol, compared to 17 distracted and 17% aggressive. And so this is, I guess one of my first question is the resurfacing projects. Which cause does that help? Is that the losing traction and leaving lanes? What improvement for these instance causes does the resurfacing
That's what
help?
you'll see, and this is one of the things we look for in the crash narrative, and that's one of the things I think that you'll find a little bit that's difficult, especially with a single vehicle crash where you don't have any witnesses. The the trooper usually, in this case, since it's on the interstate, the troopers usually kind of have to figure out what happened. But we look for things like hydroplaning, losing control, things like that. You know, if we see overcorrecting and it's a rainy day, you know, that tells you they probably ran off, overcorrected, and that didn't help. But generally, yes, sir, the resurfacing is going to mostly address those types of crashes. I mean, you have some, I think a couple of these, you know, poor tire conditions led to 2 crashes. So, you know, if somebody's driving around with ball tires, that's a whole nother set of problems. But again, we don't see a single thing that we can point to, as with most crashes, and go, this is what we need to do to fix this. I know the department has, in some counties, has done some selective removal of trees along the interstate. I don't know that they've done that in Leon County. But I know that is a concern when roughly half of our fatalities are, you know, the direct result of somebody striking a tree.
The other thing that jumped out at me significantly is the difference between fatalities with non-seatbelted occupants. And that seems to be pretty much the deciding factor, is seatbelt, non-seatbelted. And unfortunately, there was a recent fatal crash at Appalachia Parkway near the cemetery, and I was there after that watching the cleanup, and that was another one where there was one occupant was not wearing a seatbelt. And it is, stats are one thing, it's, put it lightly, impactful to see people being removed from cars who did not have seatbelts on in that condition. Is there, I know we have click it or ticket. Maybe Bryant could tell us if it's an FDOT thing or us. Just what are we doing, and is it satisfactory, or who is responsible for public information campaigns and things like that to really encourage that?
I think there's a lot of different folks. DOT has programs. You know, they'll do the portable dynamic message signs that'll have the click it or ticket. I think TPD and a lot of agencies will occasionally do seatbelt enforcement, federal highway. I don't have, one of the things we talked about through this was trying to see if we could get some statistics on tickets that are written for not wearing a seatbelt. If you recall, probably 10 years or so, it became a primary, like on the term, primary enforcement. They could pull someone over for not wearing a seatbelt. We did want to look and see how much that's occurring through our various law enforcement agencies to see, you know, what might be going on there.
Thank you. This is very helpful and comprehensive.
One other thing that might be gruesome, but the fact that they're not wearing a seatbelt and they hit a tree, many times they're ejected from the car. I know we didn't talk about that, is if you're removing them from the car, they were not ejected. But many of the times they are, if they're not wearing their seatbelt upon hitting a tree. So that, we don't need to go to that gruesome detail, but I'm just saying that is also 2 factors. Overcorrect or whatever, hit a tree, you're not wearing your seatbelt. And so it's just a continuation.
That's generally one of the things, when we look at these, I think we all just scroll to the end to look at the diagram of what happened, and you'll see a note there, ejected, partially ejected, and you go, well, that was probably a fatality. But it's amazing sometimes you'll see folks that are ejected that live. You just kind of scratch your head sometimes.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Okay.
We will, sorry, real quick, Madam Chair. We actually were going to talk about this at our community traffic safety team last month. That actually was on snow day, so that meeting got canceled. We haven't rescheduled it, so this will be a topic of discussion on that.
And
That's a missing condition from the study.
Yeah, we
I'm gonna add that.
snow related.
Yeah.
So
Another 60 days, it will be reflected.
I will tell you, in talking to some of the guys from TPD, they did a lot of accident investigation during snow days.
We just don't know how to drive in the snow down here, you know? We didn't have those snow tires on.
They had a couple of good stories that I won't repeat on the record, but feel free to get with me afterwards. They were kind of fun. Nobody got hurt, but they were kind of funny.
So the recommended action here was just discussion only?
Yes, ma'am.
Right,
This is no
okay.
action.
All right.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
This is your item, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to thank Commissioner O'Keefe for bringing it up to us. I think it's very informative. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
To be clear, I didn't do any of the work. I just
No, you brought it up.
Great job.
You asked for it. That was work.
Yeah.
You asked for it. Thank you. We're going to move on to item numbers, 7C.
I'd like to introduce Carla Hodges from District 3.
Welcome.
They made it through the snow over to come present to you all today the tentative work program for the upcoming year.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Carla Hodges, and I serve as District 3's Program Management Administrator. And I'd like to thank you today for allowing us to have this opportunity to present the projects in the capital region within the Florida Department of Transportation District 3 Tentative Work Program for fiscal years 2026 through 2030. We'd like to thank you for letting us come. We were delayed because of the snowstorm. It's weird to say in Florida, but we do appreciate your allowance and let us come in today and safely maintain roads. I'd like to also thank you for your partnership with DOT to enhance Northwest Florida's transportation network. Please note today the information that we share is for the tentative work program, and programming is subject to change. District 3 is made up of 16 counties and covers approximately 11,300 square miles. FDOT focuses on connecting communities with multiple transportation choices, and serving communities is at the center of everything we do. At the conclusion of this year's development cycle, our estimated tentative work program for fiscal years 26 through 30 was over $4.26 billion in District 3. Of the tentative work program, 71% of that is product, 15% is production support, and 14% goes toward operations. FDOT quarterly reports continue to reflect consistent increases existing in both our resurfacing and new construction projects cost per lane mile. Although FDOT's asphalt prices appear to be slowing down in growth, prices do remain high. Also, reports are indicating that hiring reliable, skilled construction labor force remains to be a struggle for our contractors. Wage increases and retention challenges continue to drive up costs for FDOT contractors. Yet despite these challenges, we are pleased to report that the district tentative work program has maintained overall stability. FDOT continues to provide significant investments in the CRTPA transportation infrastructure system and focuses on partnerships within our communities in delivering the 5-year work program. For the CRTPA, our estimated tentative work program totals over $534.6 million. 84% is dedicated toward product, 14% for production support, and 2% for operations and maintenance. Now we'd like to highlight a few of these projects, and we'll begin with your capacity projects, which were added into the tentative work program. State Road 373, Orange Avenue, from south of Lake Bradford Road to Cypress Lake Street. This is a CRTPA's number 3 roadway and capacity priority project. This project has been funded for design in fiscal year 2028. This is a capacity add lanes and reconstruction project to widen from 2 to 4 lanes. However, we still have significant unfunded needs in the right-of-way construction CI, totaling over $46.7 million. Next, State Road 373, Orange Avenue, from Cypress Lake Street to State Road 61, South Monroe. This is the CRTPA's number 3 roadway and capacity project. Design has been funded in fiscal year 27. This as well as an add lanes and reconstruction project to widen from 2 to 4 lanes. Design is currently underway at 9% plans, and this funding will enable us to finish the plans. However, we still have significant investments unfunded in right-of-way construction and CEI, totaling over $125 million. Next, we'd like to highlight a few of the traffic operation projects that have been added into the tentative work program. Leon County Computer-Based ATMS Implementation Operations, ITS Operations System. This is CRTPA's ITS priority number 1. This project entails operation funding for the ATMS. Operation funds were added in fiscal year 30. State Road 261, or US 319, and State Road 10 are US 90 intersection improvements. This is the CRTPA's number 5 roadway and capacity project. A PD&E study was funded in fiscal year 2025. Capital Region, TPA, fiscal year 2024-25 and 25-26 UPWP. This is CRTPA's number 1 urban priority. The operations and planning have been funded additionally in fiscal year 26 for the UPWP. Next, a safety projects we'd like to discuss and share with you in the Tent to Work program. State Road 8 I-10 over Occonocklee Relief Bridge and Occonocklee River Bridge. This is a safety project that will grind bridge decks and apply a high-friction surface treatment to the asphalt approach slabs in Leon County. Design has been funded in fiscal year 26, construction in fiscal year 27. We'd now like to highlight a few of the local programs projects that have been added to the tentative work program. County Road 146, Asheville Highway from Bassett Dairy Road to Quitman Highway. This is a small county outreach program, or SCOP project, that will widen and resurface existing travel lanes east of the city of Monticello in Jefferson County. Design has been funded in fiscal year 26. County Road 146, Asheville Highway from Bassett Dairy Road to Luther Fountain Road, Phase 2. This is a SCOP project to widen and resurface existing lanes in the city of Monticello as well. Construction is funded in fiscal year 28. County Road 259, Will County Highway from County Road 158, Nash Road to Robin Road, Phase 2. This is a SCOP project will widen and resurface existing lanes in Jefferson County. Construction is funded in fiscal year 26. Waverly Road from County Road 155 Meridian Road to State Road 61 Thomasville Road. This is a CRTPA's Transportation Alternative, or TA, priority project. This project will construct a 5-foot sidewalk along Waverly Road in Tallahassee. Construction is funded in fiscal year 26. County Road 375, Smith Creek Road, south of the National Forest Road 388, County Road 368 to the National Forest Road 13, Phase 3. This is a small county roadway assistance program, or SCRAP project, to widen and resurface existing lanes in Wakulla County. Construction has been added into fiscal year 27. Lonnie Raker Lane from south of Loxton Court to the State Road 267 Loxton Cutoff Road. This is a county incentive grant, or SIGP project, to resurface in Wakulla County. Construction has been added in fiscal year 28. Lastly, for local programs, County Road 365, Spring Creek Road from County Road 61 to State Road 267, Loxton Cutoff Road, Phase 1. This is a SCOP project which will widen and resurface existing lanes in Wakulla County. Construction was funded in fiscal year 2028. Design is currently in fiscal year 27. This is the local programs project that has been advanced. Old Shell Point Road from State Road 267 Cutoff Road to State Road 61 Wakulla Springs Road. This is a scrap resurfacing project north of Crawfordville. Construction work is being advanced from fiscal year 26 into the current year of fiscal year 2025. Next, we'll highlight some bridge additions. State Road 267 over Rocky Comfort Creek Bridge, bridge numbers 500027 and 500028. This is a bridge repair project in Gaston County. Will mitigate scour around the intermediate bents and slope protections. Construction has been funded in fiscal year 27. County Road 65B, Old Federal Road over Richlander Creek, bridge number 50059. This is a bridge replacement project in Gaston County. Design is funded in fiscal year 26, and construction is funded in fiscal year 30. Now we'll highlight two deletions. State Road 8 I-10 over Lloyd Creek, bridge number 540019. This is an expansion joint replacement project in Jefferson County. The work is being removed since the needed repairs have already been completed under a direct asset maintenance contracts currently in this fiscal year. County Road 8, I-10 over County Road 156, bridge number 550069. This is a bridge replacement of the approach slabs in Leon County. The work is being removed from the work program to allow the department to evaluate repair alternatives that will accomplish the needed repairs while minimizing traffic impacts on I-10. We will work to add this project back into the tentative work program as alternatives are identified. Next, we'll highlight a few rest areas. State Road 8, I-10 over Gaston County, rest areas, eastbound and westbound, capital improvements. Now, both these projects, I'll discuss on the capital improvements, which are two different projects. The first project, capital improvements, will be to update the plumbing, HVAC, roof and gutters, and resurface the parking lot. Construction has been added into fiscal year 26. At the same location, the other project is to include the water main and well replacements, installing a standby generator and family restrooms, and replacing the picnic pavilions. And the design is in fiscal year 27, and construction for this project is in fiscal year 28. Next, we'll highlight a few resurfacing projects. State Road 59, Gamble Road, from State Road 20, US 27, Leon County line. Design has been funded in fiscal year 27 and construction in fiscal year 28. State Road 267, Capitol Circle, from County Road 259, Tram Road, to State Road 20, or US 27. Design has been funded in fiscal year 26 and construction funded in fiscal year 28. State Road 20 over Okanagan River to west of State Road 263, Capitol Circle. Resurfacing includes safety improvements at various intersections. Design is funded in fiscal year 26, and construction is funded in fiscal year 28. State Road 377, or US 319, over Okanagan River Bridge to north of Beasley Road. Design is funded in fiscal year 26, and construction is funded in fiscal year 28. This is the resurfacing deferral. State Road 8, I-10, west of State Road 267 to State Road 10, US 90 in Gaston County. This is an interstate resurfacing project. The work is being deferred from fiscal year 27 to fiscal year 28 due to changes in the interstate resurfacing lane mile target allocations. Design is currently ongoing for this project. Lastly, we'd like to highlight a central addition into the tentative work program. State Road 10, US 90, multi-use path from Pedrick Road to Jefferson County line. This is the CRTPA's number 2 project priority. This project will design a multi-use path east of Tallahassee. Design is funded through the Central's program in fiscal year 29, and a PD study is ongoing. We'd like to encourage you to visit the tentative work program webpage at the address listed on the screen to review the information related to the tentative work program's development. Links to the work program documents and interactive project map viewer are provided in the quick links section to your right, as well as the public hearing. Once again, we'd like to thank you for having us here today. I also want to add a question that came up earlier from one of the commissioner, I believe Commissioner Richardson, and that had to do with 2 projects that were resurfacing projects on Pensacola Street and Stadium Drive. Both those projects were let for construction in November, this past November of 2024. The construction contract was executed last month in January 2025. The scope of services does include the mid-block work that you had outlined. So I want to let you know that, just look that for me, and we were able to confirm that for you.
Thank you. I have a question. The 2 projects that were Cypress Lake, Lake, I think it was Lake Bradford. It seems like there are sections of sectors. Why weren't they just included inclusively? Is there a reason why they're broken up?
That's Orange Avenue.
Yeah, or I'm sorry, Orange Avenue.
Yes, ma'am.
In Cypress Lake.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you're, I can take that one. I can take that one if you want me to.
Yes.
Generally, when we get to the design phase, if you recall, when they were doing the PD&E, it was from Monroe to Capitol Circle Southwest. When we get into design and construction, they get broken down into smaller segments, because the short answer is you would not be able to afford to do it from or from Monroe to Capitol Circle, so they get broke down into smaller segments.
That is correct. And that's very standard for PD&E. You'll see we'll do a whole corridor for PD&E, and then from that point, we'll segment out the projects, as Greg said, so that it is affordable, and we can move forward with those projects.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Madam Chair, I have a question. So the talk of the town is Buc-ee's coming to Capitol Circle and Northwest, I think, and I-10. And having traveled and been to Buc-ee's, the traffic that incurs in those intersections, and I know there's already 3 lanes leaving I-10 going on Capitol Circle, but is that something that we will need to look at?
As well, as we move forward to study our partnership with all businesses that come in, that will be looked at as well. That is as a new development. We're very excited to hear about it.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Thank you again, and yes, sir.
Commissioner Richardson.
Commissioner Richardson.
again, give me the fiscal years that the 2 segments of Orange Avenue are funded for?
Design.
I mean, design.
Get back to you, yes, sir. So the first segment is the -3, and design is in fiscal year 2028. Okay? And then the second segment is the -4, and design is funded in fiscal year 27, and that actually is just to complete the plans on that one. It's just additional funding.
I was going to say, I think a significant amount of the work's been done. This was just what was needed to take
Yes.
them up to 100% plan.
Yes, we are making significant investments to move forward, to be positioned to move forward with these projects.
Thank you. And thank you, Greg, for what you've done to keep this project moving forward.
Well, we're waiting on Dustin to come up with the money. I keep asking, and he keeps looking at me like he doesn't know what I'm talking about. So, as he's shaking his head back there.
All right, any other questions? Thank you so much for that
And thank
thorough
you again.
review. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am, we're here anytime to answer your questions. Thank you.
Okay, and is that, Greg, guide me because it's not on my agenda. Is it one that we need to, just a discussion?
No,
or we
ma'am,
need
just
to
it
vote
was
on?
strictly discussion.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you for the discussion. We'll now move to item number 8, Florida Department of Transportation. I've been watching, you can't wait to tell us what you came to tell us.
Madam Chair, I was wanting Carla to hurry up just so I could get
I
started
know,
on my...
I saw you.
Yes, ma'am. The department has one project update, the CRTPA on. It's a very important project to us.
Could you pull your mic closer so the folks out there can hear you?
A project that has been long time coming, and much like Orange Avenue, this is a segment of US 319 in southern Leon County, specifically from south of the Wakulla County line to south of L.L. Wallace Road. We have a virtual project update starting March 12th, and this will allow the citizens the opportunity to go online and review our plans and diagrams and, the status of the project overall as we finalize that. We do have good news. We have right-of-way funded in fiscal year 26, so we'll be able to move into that right-of-way acquisition phase. Unfortunately, the construction is not funded at this time. The current construction estimate is $57 million, so that's another check Dustin's going to have to write eventually. But we are continuing to move on this segment and the segment just north of that in our attempts to complete the widening in southern Leon County and as well Wakulla County. And with that, that concludes the department's update.
All right, thank you. So what was that? We got 7 million out of that one?
7.3 million for right-of-way acquisition.
All right, very good. All right. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Brian, how you doing?
Doing well, sir.
At our last commission meeting, Commissioner Proctor brought up the issue of the elongated roundabout on 319, oh, it's not 319, on South Monroe, from, help me out, y'all, it's right there by Paul Russell.
It's been a while since we talked about it, yeah.
Yeah, Woodville Highway. As you remember, there was a lot of conversation around some citizens in the area not really approving of it or on board with it. As I remember, I think the conversation that we had back then was that they brought back a alternative to that plan, and I believe that it was evaluated as not safe. I believe. Do you remember the instance?
I remember the discussions we had throughout, the multiple options we were looking at there. I have to go back and refresh myself.
The question I have is, construction-wise and as far as PD and all that kind of stuff, where are we right now in process there?
We have the PD&E complete, the design complete. We're looking at some additional right-of-way acquisition, and then obviously the construction.
So this is more of a board issue here. I don't know if we want to bring Commissioner Proctor and his constituents himself. And District 1 felt pretty strongly about it. I don't know if we want to bring it back, but I think it was. I remember that conversation was very, very robust, and I think that the FDOT was very adequate, very dogmatic about the fact that they had evaluated the other option, felt very comfortable with the elongated roundabout, and that it would accomplish what you want to accomplish, and that any other options likely probably would not be funded. If anybody else at the table remembers that conversation, we can talk about it a little bit. I don't want to get too much into it. I just want to kind of see if there's a willingness to have the conversation again, or are we settled on it?
I remember the conversations, and as a matter of fact, the media reached out to me yesterday to see if I was aware of anyone who was for or against, and for the life of me, I don't. I'm not aware, and didn't even know that it was bubbling back to the top again. So we probably do need to begin to look at that and see where we landed or where we are now. Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, at the County Commission meeting on February 11th, Commissioner Proctor asked us to come to this body and ask for an update. So Commissioner Maddox and I basically assured him that we would do that. So I was going to bring this up during items for discussion, but, and I will, I'll basically, I could do it right now, but basically I'd spoken with Greg Slay about this, who provided a brief update about it. And Greg, I don't know if you want to get into what the details of that are, but my recollection of us doing this 2 or 3 years ago was that the alternative that was drawn up was something that, according to our CRTPA staff and FDOT, wouldn't accommodate the expected growth to come in the following years. And there's no perfect solution. I remember us having this exact discussion 3 years ago. There's not a great solution that is appealing to everybody, but that this was probably the one that we decided upon was the least undesirable, I guess, right, is the best way to put it. But Greg, I don't know if you want to share any thoughts on that, but one thing I wanted to do was follow up on our commitment to Commissioner Proctor and ask our staff for an update that could be sent to the county commissioners, if you wouldn't mind, as well as the CRTPA board.
Yes, sir, we can certainly do that. As we discussed earlier, from a practical standpoint, this project hasn't moved since, I think, 2018 or 2019 is when it was back on the table for discussion. There was what was called, I believe, the People's Choice was what it was labeled, and DOT did go back and analyze that, and as Commissioner Minor said, it just didn't fit or didn't help the long-term goals of capacity on the corridor. When you look now with the Charlie Ward Ranch that's under development, there's another development on Woodville just south of the St. Mark's Trailhead. So, we're about to see additional traffic come into that Woodville corridor. I had to go back and look. I don't remember if this board took action in supporting what the original concept was. I know there was an extensive discussion. I don't remember a vote being actually taken, but I can go and check that. But I will tell you, I think the department's purchased about $2.5 million worth of right-of-way. Back in 2019, I believe, all of the right-of-way was funded, but then COVID hit. That shut the courts down for a while. That impacted the eminent domain takings, and then that rolled into financial shortfalls and stuff. So at one point, the right-of-way was actually removed from the work program, and at this point, there's no funding in the work program or our TIP to move the project forward.
I believe, as I remember, we did before. I think
so, but I wasn't 100%
an option of no build the alternative or FDOT's proposal. We voted in favor of FDOT's proposal, but I appreciate you asking for the update. Does that have to be in the form of a motion, Mr. Attorney? Chair,
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch
Siri was listening to.
A motion for,
Update on that segment of the elongated,
no, sir, you just need to,
It'd be
the executive director to bring it back on the agenda.
okay.
Well, Madam Chair, it was what Commissioner Proctor was hoping that we could do was to have the update sent to the county commissioners as well as the CRTPA board. So it's outside the members of this board, actually. I don't know if that rises to the level of a motion or just a request from the
You know,
executive.
my thought is that we would want it to come to this board first before it goes out anywhere else. Is that?
I mean, basically, if I were to write something up, it's just what I told you today.
Okay.
Just a brief history.
Public information
Okay.
and
Yeah, I'm not
if I have to
sure.
make a motion, I will, but I mean, I see no reason for us sending information to the county commission.
I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying that, you know, because it is board discussion, board action, I would see it coming here before releasing it. But if it's only just what he just said, and he just said what he said, you can put it on, you can put it on paper and send
Madam Chair,
it.
that
and
would be
send
the
it.
update. But that would be the update. But I told my fellow commissioner on the county commission that I would ask for an
Absolutely.
update, and that would be sent to him.
Absolutely. I had hoped that, you know, but for one, we need to be reminded of where we left this thing.
Yeah.
And that's more than just a brief conversation. That's why I was saying, remind us of where we left it, because we took action or decided not to take action. And there are people at the table now that weren't here then.
Right.
That, you know, need to be brought up to speed on what we're even talking about. And apparently someone's going to the media, because now the media is asking, so when you put it out there, the media's going to get it and going to run with it.
Well,
And we need to be able to understand what we're saying.
Chair.
I did have a meeting this morning with a reporter from Channel 6, I believe, and walked him through the history. So, and I would do, anything I sent out, I would go back and list some of the history and what happened and kind of where we are today.
Okay.
Chair, to frame the issue, if the board is reconsidering their position, you need to bring it back for a meeting to discuss what happened and whether that's the same direction you want to go in. If the decision is just to inform the county commission, then as the executive director stated, then he's capable of providing that, because that's informational only. It's just what happened at the last meeting and what's the status of the project. There's no board action required for that. So for clarification and framing the issue, the board needs to decide, do they want to revisit the issue, or are you just providing information to the county commission?
Well, I dare not claim that I know what's going on in Commissioner Proctor's head, but I will say this, that if he's asking for an update, there will be more to follow. That might be a reconsideration, because I know that he and some others were not necessarily in favor of what was decided on. And so I'm okay if this board is okay with sending that update, but just be ready, because that's not going to fly.
Madam Chair, I'm ready for anything and everything from anybody.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, you go ahead, Commissioner Minor. Thank you.
I mean,
Look at your colleague getting out of your way.
this is a simple request.
Oh, yeah,
Let's
and-
take a step back. This is a simple request from a county commissioner about a project that he cares about. All the information that would be sent to him is basically been discussed already by our executive director. It'd be a quick email summarizing what the executive director said, provide information on that. All this is public information. All of us can go back to the original meeting where we made this decision and figure out, you know, what the result was. So that's all I'm asking for.
Okay, thank you. We're not debating it. It's not no problem to do that. I am just thinking it through to the end.
Well,
And I'm looking at Commissioner O'Keefe, who was not at the table, School Board Member Cox, probably don't even know what we're talking about. But, you know, provide the information, Mr. Executive Director, and send it to whoever wants it.
Madam Chair, you are correct. What will end up happening
Yeah.
likely is that, because during this conversation, during the comments, he brought up the fact that his district is not pleased with it. So along with the update, likely will come back to this board a request from District 1 or the District 1 Commissioner for us to reconsider maybe even by way of showing up and actually making the plea himself from the lectern that we have here in our chambers. But I think it is wise for us first to start off with an update. It's good to know that it hasn't gone anywhere since then much, and all that's been done is the right-of-way acquisition. The people who were here remember that was a very passionate conversation that we had, long drawn-out conversation that we had. I think we went through about 4 or 5 different meetings with requests to FDOT, because I think I was the one who made the motion, to request that the FDOT evaluate and staff evaluate the alternative proposal, and it basically came back, as you said, Madam Chair, I believe it was you or Commissioner Richard, one of us said that, or even our executive director talked about that it didn't really adequately address the growth that comes in the future. So Madam Chair, you are going down the right road. Commissioner Minor, I appreciate you asking for the information, but I do think we should be prepared to have a conversation around once the information is given, whether we really want to reconsider and what that means. And Brian, if you could kind of, when that happens, come to the table with information about what that would mean if we reconsider, because I think during that time too, one of the things we considered was the fact that if we decided to go with something other than the FDOT proposal, which they felt like addressed the issue that we were trying to address, that the project itself likely would have been defunded or not built for a while until we came to a better solution, because they didn't want to spend money on a project that they didn't feel fully adequately addressed the problem that we were trying to address. So I guess you're right, Madam Chair. Get ready, because
I mean, that's where I would be. That's exactly where I would be. I'd be asking for information where we are. Then that help me to stage my next move for consideration.
Simple request.
I heard you the first time. It's a simple request. Just be ready that it won't be a simple solution. Commissioner Quincy.
Madam Chair, I'm just curious, has this board taken a stand on this prior to in or out of the Leon County Commission
Yes,
meeting?
ma'am.
We have, okay. Thank you.
And Commissioner Matlow. I'm sorry.
I'm just going to say that, and that will be a part of the update.
Yes.
The action that was taken at the time that this came before the board.
Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the request for the update. I remember it seemed like we had no good option at the time, because I think the recommendation from the people was some sort of 10-lane thing with pedestrian crossings that seemed unsafe. And then I think, trying to get between what's best for traffic flow coming in from the south versus people who live in the area and what they want to see. I don't remember all the ins and outs. I don't remember how many cars we need to pass through that, what type of bottleneck it will create or anything like that. So I think just bringing that back to top of mind, how much was expended, if there were alternatives, I think is worth bringing up. I'm not sure if there's a good solution in the end. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. I think we're in general agreement. Bring back, send an update. Okay.
Just a kind of a point of information, this goes back to touch on what Carla talked about earlier. I had to go back and do a little digging before I talked to the reporter today, but when we were looking at this project back in 2018, 2019, it was about $26 to $28 million to complete. Right now, we're looking at $56 million. So just to give you a scale of what we're dealing with overall, it is double plus in 6 years, let's call it. So just thought I'd point that out as a little interesting piece of information.
We look forward to your update. All right, moving on to, see what you started, Brian? You just can't win, can you? Okay, Executive Director, your report.
Yes, ma'am, just a couple of items. We have our financial audit RFQ out on the street. We're expecting that back in responses. So will Commissioner Williams-Cox is on our selection committee. We had originally talked about having our executive committee, if Commissioner Minor and Commissioner Messerschmidt recall. We ran into a bit of a glitch with that, of concern if we had a time issue that you would potentially have the executive committee making an approval, and they're actually being the selection committee. The procurement folks were a little wary of that, so since Commissioner Cox is our chair, I just asked her if she would sit in as the board representative on that.
Happy to do so.
And we have our federal certification tomorrow, pretty much the entire day in the Tallahassee room, or Florida room, which one?
So we start at 9 a.m. with the meeting itself, the certification review. There is a Teams link available if anybody would, we can send that to the board. And I think we send it to the board and the committee members. That's from 9 to 3. At 3:30, we'll start a public meeting, and that will actually then move to we're in the Florida room in the morning and the Tallahassee room at 3:30. The public meeting is also virtual as well as in person. We're requesting feedback. This meeting is not our meeting. This is Federal Highways meeting, and they want to hear what people think of how we're doing. So we welcome any comments. If you want to send it out to, again, any of your constituents, if you think that they'd be interested. I want to thank Gadsden County as well as Wakulla County for distributing this information to your partners in that region, and we hope to hear from you. Thank you.
Will there be food? Will there be food?
In the morning at 8:30, if you come, we'll serve you breakfast.
Not for me. I want you to go ahead and tell that so folks will make sure they come, at least come get a cup of coffee.
We don't have a whole lot of food.
You have to lure them.
Entice them.
You have to lure them in. Okay, anything else, Greg?
Madam Chair, that's all I had.
Greg, could
All right,
you
thank
restate
you.
what the first item that you talked about? I missed.
That's our annual audit, contract for audit services for our financial audit. Yes, sir.
And you're selecting the.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, I got you now. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Commissioner O'Keefe?
Thank you. Quick question on the auditor selection. Which fiscal year will be the first year they audit? Is it the one coming up or a
No,
year
sir,
later?
it'll be September of '24 will be their first year.
Okay. And then how long has our current firm been our auditor?
5 years.
5 years. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 10, future meeting dates. There they are there in living color, black and white. Let's mark our calendars, subject to change if needed or necessary. And,
Hopefully no snow.
yeah, hopefully no snow, because we're not equipped to do virtual meetings, right? I mean, we're able to do virtual meetings if we had to.
No, ma'am, we wouldn't. There has to be a emergency order from the governor's office.
Okay, well, if it snows hard enough, we'll wait for that. And this is just information, correct? Or are we
Yes, ma'am.
voting on this?
Nope,
Okay.
just information.
All right, and then item B, CRTPA committee actions. Any actions to report on?
No, ma'am, like I said, we just put that there for you for any information or any questions you may have.
Any questions or any information? All right. Item C will be our utilization report.
We're still good on that? Plenty of money?
Plenty of money. Okay, very good.
Well, I shouldn't say.
Don't say it. Don't say that out loud, because rents might
And
happen.
the last one was just our updated Title VI policies. Again, spent a couple of months working on that, so we were glad to get that finished up.
Thank you. So today starts the opening comment period. We will be distributing it again to all our partners, all of our interested parties list, and then bring it back to you on the 15th of April to be reaffirmed.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We're down to items for CRTPA board members to discuss. We may have already had that. I'm not sure. But if not, this is where you do it. Any other items to discuss, All right. Everybody ready to go? Okay, all right.
Move we adjourn, Madam Chair.
Second.
Been properly moved and second for adjournment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all so very, very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.